Hello and welcome to the MOOC Oral History. Today we will be discussing accessibility and archival practices. We will explore how archival work in oral history must be inclusive and accessible. We begin by discussing the principles of inclusive archiving, emphasizing the archive should document diverse voices and involve communities in preserving their own histories. Next, we compare physical and digital archives, examining their strengths, limitations, and how they complement each other. Finally, we examine web based access and online repositories, showing how modern digital platforms and community initiatives make oral history materials widely available. Throughout, we draw on foundational scholarship and real world examples from classic archival studies to Indian oral history projects to guide best practices and understanding. Principles of inclusive archiving. Inclusive archiving means actively collecting and preserving the experience of all people, especially those traditionally underrepresented in archives. As Maratha Jekard observed in 1968, oral history forces libraries and archives to create original primary sources, not just acquiring them. She outlined 5 key implications for librarians handling oral histories, including offering new service and responsibilities, integrating interviews into collections, providing bibliographic access, and developing control system for these materials. In other words, archivists can no longer be passive custodians. They become co-creators of historical records. This shift challenges us to reconsider whose stories count. Oral historians themselves stress the democratic potential of this work. Ronald J. Grell famously called oral history a tool to democratize the study of history because it involves people heretofore uninvolved in the creation of the document of their past. In practical terms, this means valuing the memories of everyday individuals alongside elites. However, Howard Jean had earlier critiqued archival collection for focusing on the powerful and ignoring ordinary people. Activists F. Gerald Ham and others argued collecting a broad spectrum of human experience with oral history used as a method to document the lives of ordinary men and women. These ideas inform inclusive archiving. We must deliberately seek our narrators from all walk of life and ensure their voices enter the archives. Inclusive practice also requires collaboration with communities. Oral History Association recommend that archival plans be tailored to the needs and priorities of each project and community. For example, project may need to work outside traditional repositories when dealing with vulnerable groups, carefully deciding who will have access to the materials and how. Guiding questions include: what do narrators want preserved? Who control access? Scholar, community members, or the public? How will privacy or cultural sensitivity be handled? In some cases, archives even establish memorandum of understanding to define rights, scope, formats, and access policies before accepting oral collections. These collaborative arguments ensure that the archive serves the community and respect narrators rather than simply imposing outside agendas. A related principle is bibliographic accessibility. As Jacquard warned, without proper cataloging, oral histories remain hidden. Archivists Graham Ilse and Jill Kenyer likewise argued that oral histories belong to libraries, so they can be widely accessible alongside books and papers. To accomplish this, archival description and catalogs must include oral interviews. This echoes Jacquard's point that librarian must furnish access bibliographically to oral history materials. In practice, this means creating library catalog records, archival finding aids, and database entries for every interview using standardized metadata. The goal is that a researcher browsing the library catalog or archive database can discover and request oral interviews just as easily as other documents. Finally, inclusivity extends to the content and context of archives. Archivists and researchers now recognize that archives have inherent biases. To counter this, they must actively collect counter narratives. The practice of oral history is itself an act of creating an alternative archive that includes the marginalized. As one review notes, oral historians have created alternative archives that undermine the narrative produced by state archives. By focusing on refugees, indigenous peoples, disabled communities, and others. When archivists apply inclusive principles, they support these alternative archives and ensure their integration into the wider historical record. In summary, inclusive archiving means democratizing the archive, seeking diverse narrators, partnering with communities, documenting underrepresented stories, and providing proper description and rights. It transforms the archivist's role from passive collector to active participant in shaping a more representative memory of society. Physical and digital archives. Archives of oral history exist in both physical and digital forms, and each medium has unique advantages and challenges. Physical archives typically hold the original recordings, audio or videotapes, CDs, field recordings, and paper materials, transcripts, notes, consent forms. These originals confer authenticity. A tape or handwritten transcript is a tangible link to the past. In many legal and cultural contexts, any original artifact carries authority. For example, archives often require waiting documents for legal proof, and preserving original master tape ensures we have the unaltered primary source. However, physical archives demand space and care. Analog media are fragile and deteriorate over time. Temperature, humidity, and magnetic fields must be controlled. Master tapes or films require climate control storage, specialized playback equipment, and ongoing maintenance. As one guide notes, physical archives require archival quality folders, files, and boxes, and dedicated storage which can be expensive and space consuming. They are also susceptible to disaster. Floods or fires can irreversibly destroy the only copy of a recording. Physical media offer only one access point, the archive itself, which may restrict who can listen to the interviews. In effect, physical archives are secure but limited. They protect original but make access more cumbersome. Digital archives address many of these limitations. Digital archiving involves creating copies of analog recordings like audio, video, and documents, scanned transcripts in electronic formats. Digital files can be stored in servers or cloud platforms and duplicated endlessly, vastly reducing the risk of total loss. An important advantage is accessibility. Digital files can be retrieved quickly and remotely by multiple users at once. And Anderson Archival observes that the largest advantage of digital archival service may be the easy accessibility and quick retrieval of the digital files, which boosts productivity and lowers long-term costs. For example, a researcher can stream an interview online or download it for analysis instead of visiting the archive in person. Digital archives also improve security. Files can be backed up and stored offsite, eliminating the single point of failure problem of a sole physical copy. Digital archives offer enhanced searchability. Oral interviews with transcript become text searchable databases, enabling keyword searches that would be impossible with analog tapes. One study found that oral history recording often sit unused after transcripts are made because printed text is more user friendly and searchable. This points to the need for good metadata, tagging interviews with names, topics, dates, and themes, and providing transcripts or captions is crucial to making digital archives useful. As best practices advise, transcripts and video captions aid discoverability and accessibility by allowing full text search of the content. In practice, digital archiving involves choosing stable file format. Example, waveform audio file format for audio, text image file format, or PDF for text, and generating descriptive metadata at every step. Despite its advantages, digital archiving also has drawbacks. It requires ongoing technological maintenance. Servers must be updated, format migrated as software changes, and cybersecurity measures in place. Moreover, digitizing large collection can be resource intensive initially, and while digital copies increase accessibility, they may lack the tangibility of original that some researchers and stakeholders value. There is also risk of obsolescence. Early digital audio formats or storage media like a digital audio tape can become unreadable without effort. Most experts agree on a hybrid approach. Use digital tools to expand access and preservation while preserving physical originals for authenticity. A digital archive doesn't necessarily replace a physical one. Both are important. Physical archives provide the authoritative sources and backup if digital systems fail, while digital archives provide scalability and search. For example, an archive might retain the original master recordings in climate control vaults, but also store high quality digital copies on multiple servers with routine backups. Physical documents like signed release form and notes would be preserved, but also scanned for quick online reference. By leveraging both media archives, achieve the perfect marriage where users benefit from easy digital access without sacrificing the integrity of original materials. The archivist's task is to plan preservation for both physical and digital. For physical media, this means following conservation standards. Example, acid-free paper, magnetically protected tabs. For digital media, it means an active digital preservation strategy, regularly checking files for bitrate, refreshing storages, and migrate data as needed. Funding and infrastructure can be barrier. High quality scanner and long term server cost money, but the investment is crucial. Without digital copies, oral histories risks remaining hidden, and without physical preservation, the risks vanishing. As one commentator warns, reluctance to adopt new technologies will result in the loss of analog media. In summary, physical archives offer authenticity and preservation of originals, while digital archives offer accessibility and convenience. Practitioners should use both, keep master recordings and documents safe offline, and create digital surrogates and metadata for public use. This dual strategy maximizes both the reliability of the archive and the reach of its collections. web-based access and online repositories. In the 21st century, web-based access is essential for archival visibility, and oral history collection has limited value if no one can discover or use it. Fortunately, digital technology and the internet provide powerful tools to make archives accessible for anywhere. The key is to publish archival materials and description online in searchable, user-friendly platforms. Most archives now use digital content management systems. Software like DSpace, Omeka, Islandora allows archivists to upload digitized interviews, transcription, photos, and documents along with metadata fields. This system automatically generates web pages or catalogs for each item. They often support search function by keyword, date, subject, and browsing by collection. Institutional repositories, university libraries, national archives may host oral history collections so that user can find them alongside other research materials. When creating these repositories, archivists should use international metadata standard, machine-readable cataloging, Dublin Core, etc., so that their collection can interpret with library catalogs and national databases. For example, the Oral History Association, founded in 1967, recommends including oral histories in union catalogs like National Union Catalog of Manuscript Collection or Interlibrary Loan System. In practice, each interview should have a detailed catalog record, author, narrator, date, keywords, summary, and if possible, a link to a digital object or download. Beyond institutional archives, collaborative digital portals have emerged. A notable example is Michigan State University's National Gallery of the Spoken Word, which aggregated digitizing oral history recordings from many sources into one searchable online database. Similarly, many countries have national oral history projects that share content online. The goal is to improve silos rather than a researcher having to know a specific archive. They can search central portal by topic or region. In India and other parts of the world, crowdsourced community archives have become influential. These initiatives harness public contribution and modern media to record personal memories. As reported in the Hindustan Times, projects like the Indian Memory Project, Citizen Archive of India, shortly CAI, and 1947 Partition Archive collect photos, letters, and oral account from ordinary people, then publish them online in a highly accessible narrative form. For instance, CAI, founded in 2016, has amassed hundreds of interviews and thousands of items related to India's independence era, combining them into multimedia stories. These are presented not as a dry scholarly record but as engaging web stories, often with scanned images and audio clips. The Hindustan Times article notes that such platforms make Indian history personal and accessible, appealing to the public interest in family stories and local heritage. In effect, they apply inclusive archiving on the web, allowing anyone to submit materials and making the archive an interactive experience. People's Archive of Rural India is also another organization working extensively with countryside rural India. An illustrative example from Northeast India is Archive, based at St. Anthony's College, Shillong, established in 2019. It collects films, newsreels, and interviews related to the region's diverse cultures. The Northeast India emphasizes people-oriented outreach. It hosts film festivals and exhibitions to raise awareness of local heritage. Importantly, It strives to make its collections accessible online and offline. Alongside its website, partners with local institutions, a college, libraries, cultural center, where audiovisual materials can be accessed. As the Northeast Archive team describes, they aim to make it access a holistic experience for all its users, online and offline. Their website allows visitors browse photos and video clips from Northeast history, a valuable resource for scholars and locals alike. In this way, a regional archive is using web platforms to extend access beyond geographical boundaries. Another innovative project is the River Project in Assam. This is an interactive multimedia archive focused on the rivers of Northeast India and the communities around them. In collaboration with local filmmakers, artists, and residents, the project collects oral accounts, films, and photos about river ecology, culture, and climate adaptation. Crucially, the River Project was designed to be accessible on the web as well as offline and in multiple languages. Its team notes that using sound and images creates a powerful record and alternative narrative to official histories. By putting these multimedia stories online, they allow anyone from villagers to global researchers to learn from indigenous knowledge. In addition to these specific initiatives, many large-scale oral history archives now have online portals. For example, national libraries or universities may post oral histories with search interfaces, or thematic projects like Story Corps make their entire collection searchable by topic. The key component of any web-based access are transparency and searchability. Users must be able to find what they need. This means including transcripts or detailed summaries as well as translating or captioning when necessary. Good online archives provide not only the raw interviews but also context, biographies, introductions, texts, so that users understand who the speakers are and why their stories matter. They also indicate rights clearly. Example, what a user may or may not do with the recordings, so that scholarly and public use is legally safe. Finally, inclusive access implies making the web interface user-friendly and inclusive. This includes clear navigation, mobile compatibility, and accessibility features. Example, text transcription for hearing impaired users, readable font for visually impaired. It also means thinking globally, translating abstract or transcripts into multiple languages when possible. For communities with limited internet access, archives have begun offering offline solutions too, such as distributing USB drives with digitized content or coordinating local playback centers. In summary, web-based access is about bringing the archive to the user's fingertips by publishing oral histories online in organized, searchable repositories. Archivists ensure that these voices can be heard by anyone, anywhere. As Bruce S. Bromer and others have argued, archives must proactively use new technologies, creating MARC record databases or web portals to improve access to oral history. When done well, these efforts fulfill the promises of oral history, a shared accessible memory bank that transcends the walls of any single institution. In conclusion, accessibility and inclusive are core to modern archival practice in oral history. We have seen that archivists and librarians must transform their approach, no longer merely acquiring documents, but creating and sharing historical record together with communities. Inclusive archiving means telling everyone's story, not just that of the powerful and setting up archives so that the public can actually use these stories. Physical archives remain the bedrock of preservation, ensuring the integrity of original recordings and documents. But we must pair them with digital strategies to widen access. Digitalization and web publishing turn static collection into living, searchable resources. As one researcher noted, without transcript and online tools, many oral recordings languish unheard. Conversely, well-planned digital archives make oral history discoverable, just as Els and Kinnear are placing interviews in libraries and online catalogs makes them widely accessible in context. Recent projects in India demonstrate these principles in action. Crowdsourced archive like the Citizen Archive of India or the Partition Archive bring marginalized memories into the public domain. Regional initiatives like the Northeast Archive and the River Project leverage digital media to preserve local heritage and share it globally. These efforts echo Grell's vision of democratizing history. By involving communities directly, they ensure that archives reflect a broader range of human experience. As archivists, our task is clear. We must adopt best practices, gather and preserve materials with care, create rich metadata and transcript, and invest in digital platforms. We should seek partnership with government, NGOs, local groups to fund and sustain archives. And we must remember that access is the ultimate goal. After all, an archive has value only when its content are available to be read, watched, and listened to. In the word of Bremer, if archives fail to make oral histories accessible, the fault lies with as a steward. Let us therefore commit to building archives that are inclusive, well preserved, and open so that voices of the past can inform our present and future. I hope you all enjoyed the classes and we shall meet again in the next unit. Thank you.